Hi friends, welcome to another video. For today, we are going to be talking about honestly such a bizarre missing persons case about a woman who went missing in the hills of Colorado in a place that is an epicenter for spiritual gatherings, UFO sightings, and just all sorts of new age activity. And I actually came across a podcast about this case called Up and Vanished that has a plethora of information, way more than I'll ever be able to put in this video, so be sure to go and check that out if you're interested in learning more about this case. I'll leave it linked down below. Kristal Reisinger was born in 1987 in Phoenix, Arizona, and there honestly isn't a lot of information about her childhood. All that's really been publicly reported on is that she had a difficult upbringing and was moved from where she lived with her parents to Denver, Colorado to live with her aunt. This living situation eventually unraveled, and Kristal then went to live with a friend when she was 15, whose parents agreed to take her in. And these parents were named Rodney and Debbie Irvin, who provided Kristal with what seemed to be like the most stable family life she'd ever had. They treated her like their own child, and Kristal considered them to be parental figures in her life. They gave Kristal the basement for her to have kind of a place to herself and even helped her get into college. Rodney and Debbie had their own kids as well who loved Kristal. It's amazing how well that living situation worked out for her. And Kristal was described as being someone who kept moving forward, who, despite all the hardship she's gone through in her life, she wanted so badly to succeed. In 2011, Kristal met a man named Elijah Ghana through a friend, and the two fell in love almost instantly, moving in together, with Kristal later giving birth to the couple's first child, Akasha. Kristal was known as being a very spiritual and deep-thinking person. She was interested in a variety of religions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, and Native American spirituality, as well as was an avid practitioner of tarot and was even said to be psychic. Kristal was said to have known things before they would happen, would have premonitions, and those things would often come true, and Kristal's motto was do no harm. And living in Denver wasn't necessarily Kristal's idea of being somewhere where the spirituality was as open as she wanted it to be. Cities can be kind of difficult for that. You're trapped between four concrete walls, and sometimes you can feel very isolated from nature. So a few years later, Kristal decided that she wanted to make a big change in her life. She wanted to move away from Denver and essentially embark on a quest to figure out where she truly belonged. In 2014, Kristal moved from Denver to Gunnison, Colorado to attend the Western State College, where she was going to be studying sociology and psychology, which is exactly what I studied in university. And she was also teaching some sort of course there as well that had to do with that. Gunnison is a pretty small town. It has only around 6,000 people living there, with a lot of the population being students who were going to that college. But a little while after that, Kristal decided that Gunnison was not where she wanted to be. She wanted something more, and Gunnison was not giving that to her. So in 2015, Kristal moved to Crestone, Colorado, which is a super small town, smaller than Gunnison, with only around 150 people living there. So small that there was only one road going in and out of it. And Crestone seemed like an absolutely perfect place for Kristal to live, given her interests, as Crestone was known as the New Age religious capital of the world, which has been said to bring in thousands of spiritual people each year to the area wanting to find out the truth, and is known as a place that people should go if they're seeking peace and happiness within their lives, with the Navajo considering that area to be sacred ground. It's also said to be a hub for alien sightings. People have made YouTube videos on their alleged sightings. Some even say that the area of Crestone is a vortex, just like an epicenter of energy. Some even refer to it as the Bermuda Triangle of the West. There's even a UFO watchtower that was built back in 2000 that you can go and visit. The watchtower is a 10-foot tall dome situated on a large space of empty land. It's a place where you can visit these vortexes, have UFO-themed weddings, and I guess you can camp there as well. Crestone has multi-faith, New Age spiritual centers, and Kristal had colorful hair, dreadlocks, lots of tattoos and piercings, wore some really cool eyeshadow looks, and so that type of aesthetic really seemed to fit in there in Crestone, and Kristal finally felt like she was in the right place. Kristal was really sensitive to energies, and Crestone was said to be a place where the natural energies of the earth were amplified. The only thing about it is that Crestone is incredibly isolated, out in the mountains by the sand dunes, and like I said, there were less than 200 people living there, and in a place like that with that much seclusion, obviously there isn't going to be a huge variety of amenities available to the residents, with the closest emergency services being about 45 minutes away. And the thing is that apparently Crestone is known as being a pretty safe place. The people are said to police each other, keep an eye on each other, and apparently the people of Crestone don't even lock their doors at night. But if you think that Kristal just up and left her family, that's definitely not the case. And even though she wasn't living with Elijah and her daughter, she was still as present as she could be within their lives. Kristal would call home every single day to talk to Elijah and Akasha. At one point, Kristal actually phoned Elijah, telling him that she had had a premonition that involved the both of them, that something huge was going to happen to both of them in just a couple of days. She said she didn't know what the intricate details were surrounding this event, but she knew that it was unavoidable. And a couple days later, Elijah woke up in the hospital to find that he had been stabbed repeatedly in the face. He'd been beaten. It just seemed like this horrible random attack. And when she heard the news, Kristal immediately went out to Denver to assist Elijah in his healing before returning to Crestone, and it was only a couple days after her return that she went missing. After a couple days of Kristal being MIA, Elijah not being able to get a hold of her, he contacted the police, who told him that somebody had actually already filed a missing persons report on Kristal, her landlord, on July 13th, 2016. Her landlord said that it was suspicious that Kristal hadn't been home in a few days, so that's why she'd called the police. Police thought at first that Kristal may have committed suicide, but everyone who knew her did not think that that was the case. Elijah and Kristal's stepdad Rodney went out to Crestone and talked to everyone there, searching all over to try to find any trace of what may have happened to her or where she had gone, handing out flyers and everything. The police had been telling them that Kristal was this wild partier, that she was having these big ragers in her apartment, but yet her apartment did not look like somebody who was having ragers in there all the time. It was a little disorganized, but looked more so like just somebody was living there. There was really no indication that Kristal had been partying at all. So there were definitely some conflicting stories going on. Inside the apartment, however, police did find Kristal's cell phone and her medication. So things just weren't adding up. Kristal had gone off on a 2-week walkabout before, which is essentially a spiritual walk that you go on, kind of like a quest, usually through the desert for a prolonged period of time. And the police thought that maybe Kristal had gone off on another one of these and just hadn't told anybody about it. But it was still so weird that Kristal would just leave her daughter hanging without any notice when she was known to call her daughter like every single day. Now, through talking with the locals, which I guess was pretty difficult to get much information from them as they're said to be pretty distrustful of outsiders, but it was discovered that the last place Kristal was spotted at was a full moon drum circle on July 18th, so 5 days after Kristal had been reported as missing. Drum circles are traditionally a sacred practice to the Native Americans, but this drum circle was not really the same thing. It was said to be a half party, half spiritual experience. It took place a little ways out of town. There were lots of people there. There was a huge bonfire. People would be drinking, partaking in drug use, dancing, singing, and raising the energy with drums in the full moon, and these would happen once a month. And at this particular one on July 18th, someone said that they saw Kristal looking off that night, that she didn't seem super happy. As well, someone said that they saw Kristal walking off alone at one point into the forest. To me, someone at this drum circle must know something. Kristal lived in this town. She knew everyone. She was with the people of the town on the night that she was said to have gone missing. I think that maybe this could perhaps be a case of people in town not wanting to rat out their own. This is a tight-knit group of people. Like, I don't understand why nobody knows what happened to Kristal. But apparently those in town who said that they knew her didn't actually know her that well. When police would go and question the locals to try to get a bigger picture aware of Kristal and where she may have gone, what she may have been doing, people seem to really only know like surface level information about her. So was Kristal just a very private person, or was there something else going on? A theory as to what may have happened to Kristal is that she may have perhaps gone out hiking, and that's why she was seen leaving the drum circle and walking away into the forest, and proceeded to get into some sort of accident or commit suicide. Kristal didn't appear to have taken any hiking supplies with her. It was nighttime. I'm assuming she wasn't dressed appropriately to go hiking. And I mean, if she was out of sorts when at the drum circle and just wandered off, certainly she could have accidentally hurt herself somewhere or had fallen off something and hurt herself on accident or purpose. But Kristal had so much love for her daughter and wanted so badly to find her own purpose in this life that the people who knew her just thought that that couldn't have been an option for her. Another theory was that Kristal had joined this group called the Rainbow Gathering, who described themselves as being a community of people who meet together in remote forests and camp for weeks at a time. They described themselves as being brothers and sisters, children of God, friends of nature, and children of humankind. They want to be free from consumerism, mass media, and capitalism. But then there are reports of there being incidents in the communities near where the Rainbow Gathering followers would be, with reports of theft, violent assaults, driving under the influence, missing persons cases, and homicides. So it's been thought that Kristal may have found her way into one of these gatherings, and that's why she left her cell phone to be away from technology. But police did make some calls to other police departments in those areas where the Rainbow Gatherings were to ask if Kristal had been there, but it didn't seem like anything had come of that, so it didn't appear as though Kristal had been at any of these gatherings. And then there's the theory that Kristal was the victim of foul play, that she had been kidnapped. Now, Kristal was said to have been hanging out with some odd types of people in the area. Some sketchy people had been seen hanging around her apartment, and it was speculated that Kristal had even gotten into drugs. Some people were saying that Kristal had even been spotted at that drum circle that night with a group of men that nobody really knew. These guys were said to have a really bad vibe, but nobody really knew much about them. And I guess Kristal had a boyfriend while she was living in Crestone. I'm honestly not too sure about the intricacies of her relationships, if she was still with Elijah or not. I couldn't find a lot of information on that, but sources say that Kristal had a boyfriend, and this boyfriend introduced her to a man named John, who was also known as Catfish, who was about 40 years old from a wealthy family in the area, who then introduced Kristal to another guy after she had broken up with this boyfriend, whose name was Nathan. And according to reports, Kristal made mention of being sexually assaulted at Catfish's house by a group of men. Some she knew, others she didn't. Kristal allegedly told Nathan that she had been held there against her will, was not allowed to leave the house, all just a few weeks before her disappearance. But Catfish denies this, saying that he barely knew her, and Kristal never reported this assault to the police either. So people began speculating that Kristal was going to alert the police about what happened to her, and that these guys found out about her intention, then murdered her. Furthermore, Elijah said that his last phone call with Kristal, she was very agitated and upset, telling him that people had drugged and raped her, and thinks that these people were involved in the drug trade, and that Kristal wanted to put a stop to it. And I know that that statement contradicts what I was saying in a prior theory, but there is so much conflicting information in this case that it's hard to know what is more likely, because a lot of people have been saying that Kristal was just very private, or that they didn't know her very well past a surface level, and Kristal was living by herself up here in Crestone, so it's hard to know just what exactly she'd been up to. During the Up and Vanish podcast, it was said that Catfish had fucked off from Crestone, gutted his house, bleached everything, got rid of a ton of items, and said that Kristal's ex had sent him a Facebook message saying that he had killed Kristal, but Catfish didn't want to share the screenshot that he had of this alleged conversation. But nobody has been formally charged in Kristal's disappearance, and to this day there's still a $20,000 reward for information leading to her discovery. I think it's crazy because Crestone was known as a place that had a lot of people drifting in and out of the town, not staying for very long, and what happened to Kristal very well could be that some random had kidnapped her for whatever reason and that she's not even in the town anymore. But in a town of only 150 people, someone is bound to know something. And I strongly feel that some people in that town know what happened to Kristal, but for whatever reason, they don't want Kristal's case to be solved. I don't know why, like to protect their own maybe, like it's ridiculous to think about, but it very well could be the reason. Then there's speculation that this drum circle had really nothing to do with her disappearance, that it plays no part in it at all, and that it was only brought up in the first place to throw off the investigation. A search was conducted in a number of abandoned mines in the Crestone area in 2018, with people believing that Kristal's body could have been discarded somewhere in there, but unfortunately there were no signs of her remains anywhere that they looked. It's really sad to hear about how much of a profound impact Kristal's disappearance had on her friends and family. Her stepdad Rodney felt like he failed to protect her, and Elijah has felt like a piece of him has been missing since she's been gone. In the podcast Up and Vanished, Kristal's daughter Akasha is quoted as saying, "My mommy's in the spirit world." And she's a little girl, like it's weird that she would say something like that. But that is pretty much it for this case. Like I said, Kristal is still missing. There's still a reward for any information leading to her discovery. And like always, I would love to know your thoughts on this case, any theories or opinions that you may have. And if you are new to my channel, please give this video a like and subscribe if you've not already. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.